This is the Global Mom Show, episode 0. In this intro episode, I tell you a little bit about my background and why I started the Global Mom Show. Hi, I'm Mary Grace Otis, and you're listening to the Global Mom Show. Do you love to travel, learn about other cultures, or open your home to people from around the world? Maybe you live and work abroad. Maybe you used to, or maybe you wish you did now. Maybe you live in a big city with lots of opportunities for global connection, or maybe you live in a small town like I do, and you want to find ways to connect yourself and your kids with a global view of life. Well, whatever the case, the Global Mom Show will encourage and inspire you to live a global life wherever you are and teach your kids to do the same. Each week, I'll connect you with moms around the world who are living globally minded lives as educators, authors, immigrants, expats, development workers, business owners. Well, you get the idea. I can't wait to share their stories with you and to hear yours as well. Here we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Grace Otis, and I am so excited to be hosting the Global Mom Show. This idea started several years ago when I became a mom, and I wanted to find a way to integrate my global background into my life as a parent. I got the domain name theglobalmom.com, but I never did anything with it. Instead, I was busy having 3 kids. All kind of in a row without much space in between. And I just got pulled into the life of motherhood. And really, that's kind of what I've spent most of my time doing. And now that my oldest child is 6, I feel like I'm at a point where I really want to start giving my kids more than just, food, diapers, books, sleep, the basics, discipline, all of those things are great. And that's the foundation. And that's what I've been working on. But now I really want to spend some time sharing with them about other cultures and teaching them languages and all of those things that I haven't had a lot of time to do because I've just been busy doing life. And I really want to be intentional about this. And I've started thinking about the fact that I just haven't kept in touch with people from my time overseas. I don't know how to connect with them and with people around the world that might have similar ideas as I do. My background is that I started learning German when I was in high school, took my first trip to Germany when I was probably 16 or 17 and spent about a month there with my high school class and with a family there. And my German language just grew and grew. I was just amazed at how much I was able to learn and improve in that short amount of time. And I was hooked on world travel from then on. And I came back to the States and I ended up taking AP German and majoring in German in college, going back to Germany several times as a student at the University of Heidelberg and then later at the University of Erfurt. And then I ended up getting a Fulbright there after college, a couple years after college, and worked over there in journalism at Spiegel and Zeit, doing my internships there, and wrote a weekly column for the Thüringer Allgemeine Zeitung, which is a newspaper in Erfurt, and just had more and more experiences overseas. Now, my family had also had multiple foreign exchange students when I was growing up. When I was in high school, we had a friend from Brazil. We had another German student who we're still friends with today with their family, another German student, a Russian student, someone from Spain. So we were just really connecting with people from around the world and being exposed to that. And then I came back to the States after being in Germany, and I was looking for a way to go back overseas. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Wound up about a year later over in India. I lived in India for a total of 3 years. First, I just went for a couple months and I fell in love with it. And I loved everything about the food and the colors and the people and the places and just the excitement and the society. There was always something going on. I was in Bangalore, which was a really big, growing, booming city with the software industries coming in. And there was just always a lot going on. I did some corporate training over there. And I also worked for a nonprofit that helped people with disabilities. And during that time, I really came to want to learn more about international development and about how aid could best support people overseas, about the financing aspects, about doing things that were sustainable, about Western influence, and about working with people on the ground and grassroots and all of those kind of things. And I was doing communications because my background was in journalism and I had worked for a couple of years for a magazine in the US. And so I was doing communications for this nonprofit in India, and I just really wanted to learn more. And that's when I decided to go back to graduate school, and I went to the School for International Training in Vermont and in Brattleboro. And that's where actually quite a few of the guests on this show are going to be from, or my years in Brattleboro, my year or two, in Brattleboro, because so many of those people there I just really connected with, and they're doing amazing things around the world. So this has given me an opportunity to talk with some of them again and reconnect and share what they're doing. But so anyway, then I went to graduate school and learned a ton and was exposed to new literature and new thinking about international development and sustainability and sustainable development and all of those things, language learning. Tried to learn a little bit of Spanish while I was there. Not sure how I did on that, but anyway, I wound up going back to India for my field work in monitoring and evaluation, and did a monitoring and evaluation project with the organization I was with. And we also did wheelchair distributions, those types of things. But I wrote my thesis while I was over there, and then came back to the States after that. And when I came back to the States, there was a variety of reasons that I came back, and I was thinking that I would get involved in a nonprofit here in the US. But this was in 2007, 2008. It was the time that the economy was just taking a big downturn, and jobs in nonprofits were just not to be found. I applied for job after job after job, and nothing was coming through. And I wasn't finding a way to connect my background with what I wanted to do. So I wound up getting a job at an art center, and it had nothing to do with international development. I ended up moving to a small town in northern Michigan, getting married and settling in this small town where I worked for a wonderful art center. And I did learn a lot about nonprofits there. And I did have an opportunity to use some of my skills, but it was still a part-time job, and I was still doing freelance writing on the side. And I wound up writing for some nonprofits, for some community foundations and some libraries and things like that. So I was able to use some of my journalism skills and my interest in nonprofit work, but the international development side of it was just not utilized. And I had a really hard time adjusting back to life in the US. As a lot of expats or people who travel abroad know, the whole repatriation process can be really life-changing and very daunting. And when I moved back to the States, I really kind of panicked. I was overwhelmed with all the differences in my life and with all the differences in the culture. I had a really difficult time talking about my experiences with people. I had a hard time communicating with people. I had a very difficult time expressing things that wanted to be expressed. I struggled with culture shock. I struggled with loss of my purpose, of a job that I really loved, of people and relationships, of a lifestyle that allowed me to travel and live overseas and just experience different types of music and food and climate and visuals. I mean, I had gotten an opportunity when I was in India to travel to Thailand and travel different places in India. I had traveled all throughout Europe. And so moving back to the States was just a big, huge adjustment. And I went through a lot of counseling, and I also changed some things in my diet, found some chemical imbalances that I was having with hormones and adrenal glands and things like that. So I did some diet change and some supplementation, but it was a long road before I got to where I felt like I was at a stable place again. And so for anyone struggling with repatriation, I just want you to know I have been there. And I got to a point where I had to kind of stop talking about my experiences overseas because there was a lot of pain there in leaving. And I really just focused on building my life here. And I focused on building my family. Like I said, I had 3 kids in 5 years. About 5.5 years, I focused on giving them the best start that I could and just being like so many of us, just being all mom all the time. But I have realized that even though I wanted to do the globalmom.com, I wanted to start that 5 years ago, I didn't know how, and I didn't know what I wanted to focus on. And now that I'm 5 years into this motherhood thing, or 6, now that my son just turned 6, I realize that one of the things I really miss is conversations with people from all over the world and talking with people with different perspectives and getting to know them and sharing our differences and sharing how we parent from a different perspective, how some cultures really focus on community and some cultures focus on individualism. And all of those things just bring a richness into our lives. And I really just want to reconnect with people and have a chance to discuss some of those things that you don't get a chance to discuss at play dates or in the preschool drop-off line or at soccer practice. When you might see other moms, you might even have friends from different cultures, but you don't really have an opportunity to talk about those things that you really want to talk about. So that's what this podcast is going to be. It's an opportunity to have those conversations with people about things that matter. We're going to be talking about raising our kids to be aware of all the world's cultures. We're going to talk about what books we can share with them, what movies, what international stories we can share, how much to share about news and world happenings with our kids so that they're aware but an understanding of other cultures, but that it's not affecting them in a really negative way, about some of the horrors like terrorism and things like that. We'll talk with people about repatriation and some of the culture shock issues that I've gone through and other people go through all the time. We'll talk to expats about how they're managing to move their careers overseas and what that means. We'll also talk to some nonprofit founders about what they've done to start nonprofits overseas and how they're working on things like poverty eradication and women's rights and protecting children, human trafficking, all of those things that are happening all around the world, and we don't always get a chance to hear about them. I really am excited about where this is going to lead, and I hope that you are too. I hope that you will feel that you can contact me on my blog, theglobalmom.com, that you can follow us on Facebook at The Global Mom Show and connect with me on Twitter at The Global Mom. All of those things are ways that you're going to be able to have feedback into the show and the types of people that I talk with, the types of things that we discuss. I forgot to mention, but I also want to talk to those moms who have never traveled overseas and yet really want their kids to have a global perspective and that they want to have a global perspective. So we want to include that as well. I want you to feel free to give your input and advice and just bear with me as I'm trying to figure out this whole medium of podcasting and what that looks like with all the editing software. And it's a new world for me and we're just trying to make this work. I hope that this is going to be easy to listen to and fun and that it's going to be exciting to see where it leads. If you have any questions, just please feel free to contact me in any of those ways. And also just share this podcast with your friends. Subscribe so that more people can find out about it. Leave a review if you have a minute, because that helps bring the podcast up in iTunes so more people can see it. And it really just helps it get a wider reach. I would love for global moms all around the world to connect. And in the future, who knows, maybe we'll have global mom meetups around the world in different places. I just want to remind you that it doesn't matter where you live You can live a global life anywhere. And that's one thing that I've really been trying to tell myself. It doesn't matter if I live in a metropolitan busy city or if I live in a small town, I can still bring the world to my kids and to myself, and we can share that. And that's what the show is about, connecting people with that vision. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Now go ahead and listen to the first episode with Becky Morales. She is from the Kid World Citizen blog, and she gives so many great tips, and we have a great conversation about raising multicultural kids. Have a great day, and don't forget to subscribe to the show. Thanks. Bye.